So conversation is very important to maturity, and part of conversation is silence. One of the things that's really important in maturity skills is awkward silence. It's actually a maturity skill to be in silence and be awkward at the same time and be okay. So when we have silence, what are some things that happen to people when it's too silent in a conversation, in all kinds of settings? What do people do? They start talking, yeah. Fidgeting. Because how come we do that?
To fill the awkward silence.
Right, and how come we don't like the awkward silence?
Because we feel awkward.
Yeah, and so and when we're awkward, if I'm awkward, how do you feel?
Awkward.
Right.
It's a group activity.
It's a group activity. So this is another group activity, is shared awkwardness. It actually bonds a group. Now our right brains have more capacity to receive information and to interact with each other, because we are intrapersonal. Do this, intrapersonal. Intra. And we are interpersonal. Oh no, that's the wrong one. No, this. We are interpersonal and intrapersonal. Okay, we are, what's this one? And this one? Right. Have you ever met people, when they talk to you, you're not even there. You're like a TV. You're like a screen, and they're just talking to themselves to an audience of one. They're their own audience. Have you noticed that? And that's actually boring.
Most of my professors.
Most of your professors. At least you didn't say, your significant other. So conversation is very important to maturity, and part of conversation is silence. And silence is needed to fill the space so that you can actually just become closer together. Awkwardness draws you closer together. And there's these things called awkward family photos. Who has seen that? Have you ever seen these? How come they're so popular? They're funny. We share. We all get it, don't we? Like we go, oh my goodness. Yet, we probably are similar, but we wouldn't say it, or we can't believe they actually posted that. So awkwardness is really important to maturing, especially children. They need to have awkwardness. And they need the awkwardness to build trust. Because if you shame people in their awkwardness, the trust is broken. If you make them feel stupid or less than, or make them feel small, you're shaming them, or perhaps people can shame us. And so sometimes I deliberately choose awkward settings. I go into awkward situations. I create awkward environments. I do it on purpose. And I still stay authentic to myself. I still stay Dietrich. And I make sure that the person or groups that I'm with are comfortable in the awkwardness. Isn't that a cool bit of information? So I want to encourage you to discover the value of awkwardness, because the awkwardness builds a bond. And that's one of the reasons I tend to bring this subject up, because most people don't ever talk about it. And when you're in a group setting, a small group or business group, whatever, leadership group, there will always be someone who can't stand the silence. How many of you notice that? Yeah, and they have to fill the silence, don't they? And that's because they have not metabolized and learned the maturity skill of awkwardness. And just having that silence together. And in the silence, there's so much noise in the pause. And that's where the treasures of valuable information are. Because when you let the silence just sit, we're actually all thinking. And we're going deeper, and we're reflecting. And it'll surprise you what people will say, because they're going to come up with something you never ever would have imagined they would have said. And it's often the quiet ones who have not been allowed to speak up. And the quiet ones often have the answers. They have this level of clarity this level of awareness and insight, they've never been allowed to bring it to the surface, because the ones who are afraid of silence will not allow it. And that's just part of life, isn't it? Now, there are times I've asked people to stop talking. And I've said to them, you know, I know you're talking, but I'm actually not listening to you. And some of you have experienced me saying that to you. And I said, I really value who you are and our conversation, so I'm just going to let you know that I'm not listening, and let's just slow down so that we can actually be in an exchange. Now that takes a bit of practice, okay? You're going to stub your toe, you're going to fall off the bike, it's going to be awkward. However, I would encourage you to discover the value of authentically connecting with people, and when you become self-aware and you're not actually listening to them, are you listening to me? Are you still with me? Okay, so then you just tell them. So you know what, I'm distracted, I'm not listening to you. And just see how you can recover from that. How many have ever done that in this room? Okay, Nikki has?
With my children.
With your children, oh. And how's it worked?
It does work.
Yeah, it actually adds value to the exchange right away.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So these are group dynamics that are really important to maturing, because if you just talk and no one's listening, you're just in an audience of one, and what good is that? Because we're intrapersonal and we're interpersonal.